All right. Hello, all. I am both. I think it's possible to both be flattered by an introduction and also make it have it make me feel really old. But thanks, Ed, for the kind words. It's been a whirlwind since coming to OWP. But I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us at the Cairo Science Meeting. As Ed mentioned, I am over in Germany right now. I apologize that I couldn't be there with you in person, but I really do appreciate that you all made this work to present virtually because I really did want to be there. As Ed mentioned, my name's Allison, and I am very pleased to have the opportunity to talk with you today as the acting director of the NOAA Office of Water Prediction, but also as the technical program manager for Cairo at NOAA. While I've only been in these roles for a few months, that time's provided really clear evidence of the criticality of the science performed through Cairo in the field of water prediction, specifically in terms of direct applicability to National Weather Service operations. I was really pleased to hear the theme of this year's science meeting would be mobilizing research into operations. Are my slides up by any chance? It doesn't look like they are.
Nope. Mike, Allie, we're still working to bring them up.
Okay.
Could you just verify that you are sharing your screen, Allie?
No, I thought my slides were submitted there.
Okay, so could you share your slides? Could you share your screen?
I am not able to do that from here.
Okay. We are sending somebody up to the booth. Allie, the question from the audience is, what brings you to Germany?
I am at a WMO meeting. I'm the chair of the Standing Committee on Marine Meteorology and Oceanography, and we are having a commission meeting here.
You'll forgive the ignorance in this question, but is this or is this not Oktoberfest?
It is not Oktoberfest.
Duly noted. Duly noted.
I appreciate the suspicion in the room, though.
I'm looking for Stephanie O'Neill. We have a colleague here who's a German immigrant, and I'm running out of, unlike Dr. Bidaris, I don't have any interesting jokes to tell and land flat. How was retirement? Short, like me. It was to be honest, Dr. Ames, it was interesting, but the joy I got in the phone call on July 25th, a day after Pioneer Day, that said, Mr. Clark, we're sorry. We'd like you'll need to come back. Coming back to this community the day after we just had the Summer Institute, it was a blessing and a gift. This more than anything else motivates me. The team at the Office of Water Prediction is fantastic, but what we've built together with Cairo is something that I think will be transformational, not just for the hydrology science, but for the challenges that we face, that my niece and my nephew will face, that my wife's niece and nephew, and that children will face for the better part of the second half of this century. Just hang on, it's not going to be a fun one. Allie, it might be okay if perhaps I see Troy in the booth. Would you like to proceed with your talking points and we can get the slides going at some point?
Yep, I think that's best. I'm not able to share. I know he's trying to troubleshoot. I apologize for those in the room. So I'll just keep going. Just wanted to note how unique this gathering is because it brings together researchers, operational scientists, educators, and partners across government and academia, all similarly committed to advancing the nation's water prediction mission. It's a strong illustration of how Cairo is strengthening relationships across the operational hydrology community of practice. This meeting and the ideas that you will all share this week are critical to the future of actionable water intelligence in this country. Cairo is now more than 3 years into its mission, and it's consistently providing research that aligns with OWP and other partner priorities. It's clear that Cairo is meeting its core mission of boosting NOAA's ability to deliver actionable water intelligence. The purpose of today's session is to reflect on what we learned in FY25 operations, take a clear-eyed look at where the challenges still remain, and to talk about how Cairo research is making a difference in the services that we deliver. It's also an opportunity to set the stage for what lies ahead as we continue to strengthen the bridge between science and operations. There was a slide with a visualization of FIM in the Ohio River Valley, so hopefully you all will be able to see that at some point. But just wanted to note that during the Ohio River Valley floods earlier this year, offices in the National Weather Service's Central Region embraced flood inundation mapping services and messaging ahead of the onset of flooding in a way that we have not seen before. That proactive step improved readiness, allowed partners to plan with confidence, and showed the value of leaning forward with new capabilities before a crisis. We also saw these products gain traction far beyond the traditional hydrology users. For example, a Nashville broadcast meteorologist picked up our flood inundation mapping products and shared them widely on social media, underscoring the need to remain off the many flooded roadways throughout the region. The clear visuals helped the public understand the flood risk and reinforce that our work is not just about technical accuracy, it is about communication that motivates timely action. The lessons from these experiences is that when forecast skill, mapping and visualization tools, and effective communication come together, partners will lean in and the public will respond. There's a growing appetite not just for the best modeling, but also for nuanced and effective visualization and communication mechanisms. And we're seeing operational hydro products start to be at a state of readiness that we can rise to that challenge. At the same time, over the last year, we faced difficult reminders of where our services still need to grow. The extreme precipitation events in Texas and the Carolinas highlighted the limits of existing methods, particularly when it comes to forcing and regional transferability. These events underscored the need to continue testing high-resolution models and building reforecast and hindcast data sets to ensure our services hold up across diverse hydrologic conditions. At the Summer Institute, one of our colleagues said something that really stayed with me. They said, hydrology is actually harder than rocket science. Unlike physics, there is no single unifying equation that applies everywhere. Every basin is different, and that reality makes regionalized models and approaches not optional, but essential to credible forecasts. And while flooding often dominates the media headlines, the water issues in this country are far more numerous. Looking ahead, forecast-informed reservoir operations, or FIRO, remains a top priority among our stakeholders, followed closely by water supply forecasting. We are focused on strengthening both by ensuring FIRO viability studies, calibration, and communication are backed by reliable probabilistic tools such as HEFS, while at the same time delivering water supply guidance with greater clarity and consistency. Multifaceted challenges require innovative approaches and strong partnerships. Ed alluded to this a little bit in his introduction, but as many of you know, the National Weather Service is planning to move towards a more integrated model between the River Forecast Centers, and the Office of Water Prediction. The intent is simple: enhance service delivery by centralizing where it makes sense while preserving the local expertise that is essential to stakeholder trust and engagement. This approach allows us to scale support for efforts like FERO and water supply forecasting, provide more consistent products across basins, and accelerate the infusion of CHIRO research into operational workflows. Instead of each RFC working in a silo, we can share methods, verification approaches, and technical resources across 14 operational centers where it makes sense, as well as the enterprise. That means fewer bottlenecks, better resilience, and more capacity for the scientific work that stakeholders depend on. So what does it mean for CHIRO? The reorganization of OWP is about clarifying mission focus and speeding transition from research to service. For CHIRO, this means more opportunities to align research with mission-critical gaps, whether that's next-gen components and operations, flash flood forecasting, hydrologic drought forecasting, or verification and reforecast services for FERO and HEFS. It also means computing strategies that are more flexible. In the near term, we are leveraging resources at the National Water Center and partner institutions. In the longer term, the emphasis will be on portability and scalability so that RFCs, OWP, and partners alike can run simulations and analysis that they need. And as we just heard, there are emerging opportunities with UA's High Performance Computing Center just over the horizon. These organizational changes also bring new opportunities for collaboration and funding. They highlight a new emphasis or a renewed emphasis on mission-critical, use-inspired research that will shape FY26 and beyond. Priorities such as next-gen development, flash flood forecasting, hydrologic drought forecasting will directly benefit from this stronger alignment between CHIRO and OWP. So I know Steve's going to talk about the state of CHIRO, but I wanted to mention it as well. Oh, it looks like my slides are up. We're on the state of CHIRO slide, please. So this meeting also marks an important milestone. CHIRO is now more than 3 years old, and it's maturing into exactly what was envisioned: a national consortium delivering research aligned with NOAA's priorities and building a true community of practice. The research portfolio is robust and directly relevant. River ice mapping, next-gen framework development, machine learning integration, and the expansion of flood inundation mapping services and communication. Practical tools like NextGen in a Box, the FIM Builder, the CHIRO portal and DocuHub, HydroLearn, they're all making it easier for scientists and forecasters alike to translate knowledge into services. Perhaps most importantly, CHIRO is investing in the workforce of the future. Programs like the Summer Institute, REUs, NRTs are producing graduates who are fluent in both science and operations, and who are already becoming a part of the hydrologic enterprise. CHIRO is also strengthening relationships across broader operational hydrology community of practice. This includes quarterly engagements, strong presence at professional meetings such as AMS and AGU, leadership at events like HEPEX, the Water Observing Technology Forum, Water Resources Association, DevCon, and this science meeting. Ongoing activities such as the monthly R2O2R webinar are keeping the dialogue alive year-round and ensuring that research remains closely tied to operations. And I use that word dialogue intentionally. As much as information sharing is important, having two-way conversations around that information is even more important. So please, this week, share your ideas, ask the questions, introduce yourself to people you haven't met before. In general, think outside the box. Another feature of this meeting that I want to highlight, I think it's on the next slide, please, is the series of lightning talks. These short, focused presentations cut across all of CHIRO's research priorities, from machine learning and remote sensing to hydrologic modeling, communication, and education. They showcase the breadth of innovation taking place across the consortium, and just as importantly, how those ideas connect directly to the NOAA mission. These lightning talks are a great reminder that even in a complex enterprise, progress is being made through many contributions, each aligned with our shared priorities. Over the last several decades, extraordinary advances in hydrologic science, modeling, and computation have brought us to a unique moment. The innovations on display here, from machine learning to high-resolution mapping to probabilistic forecasting, are not isolated achievements, but the culmination of years of steady and intentional progress. We're now positioned to turn that accumulated progress into tangible outcomes for the nation. When it comes to flood prediction, this means measurable reductions in fatalities and damages as our tools give people more time to act. For water supply, it means clearer, more reliable information to support decisions that balance human needs, ecosystems, and economic priorities. Strategically, I like to say that we are at a crescendo. The scientific and modeling breakthroughs of the last few years and the ones just ahead give us the chance to fundamentally change how communities experience and manage water. This is the moment when science can fully deliver on its promise, not only advancing knowledge, but driving real-world outcomes that save lives and strengthen the nation's water security. So thinking about how we strengthen Cairo's connection to OWP, which I think is the next slide. There's several ways to make the partnership between Cairo and OWP even stronger. We want to see more regular engagement between Cairo researchers and OWP scientists, whether through abstract reviews, webinars, or working groups, and we're committed from the OWP side. We want to grow the number of OWP champions who are paired with Cairo PIs in true co-production, ensuring that research is designed with adoption and verification in mind from the very beginning. From NOAA's perspective, return on investment from Cairo research is clear. When we see more collaboration, more co-authored papers, more shared presentations, and open source tools and data products that are more directly useful in operations. The expectation is not only for a transition of research into operations, but also into knowledge, software, and trained personnel. The new pipeline of potential hires from Cairo education programs is one of the most important contributions this partnership can deliver and does deliver. Ultimately, these tangible returns on investment and graduates who are ready to step into operational hydrology roles are what we would love to continue seeing come out of Cairo. So what does success look like for the coming year? It looks like a 2025 product push that delivers tools forecasters can run, explain, and maintain. It looks like FY26 white papers that are clearly mapped to operational gaps and measurable value for partners. It looks like research outcomes that improve readiness, lead time, and clarity for decision makers across the country. The opportunity we all share is to turn excellent science into dependable services that communities trust. I want to thank the Cairo members, RFC colleagues, and all of our partners for making this possible. And thank you again for allowing me to kick off this meeting. I do hope that this provides a nice lead-in for Steve, who I know is going to share more about the state of Cairo and where the community is headed next. But I just want to thank you all for your time. And I think we have time for a few questions. I'm sorry again that I'm not in person with all of you, but please do feel free to talk with Troy and Ed or any of the other OWP staff that's there in person. And then here is my contact information. I welcome and encourage you to reach out to me at any point with follow-up questions as well. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Matt.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. I do want to thank Matt Womble, acknowledge that he has set us on a wonderful track for this week's meeting so that we are still ahead of schedule, which means we have a little bit of time for a few questions. If folks do have questions, please raise your hand and wait till you have a microphone in front of you so that Allie can hear your question. Dr. Clark, the other one.
Yeah, Martin Clark. That was a very inspiring presentation. Thank you very much. I'm thinking about the history of the National Water Centre and where you are now, it seems as if what we're seeing is a transition from a model-centric philosophy to a focus on the broader model ecosystem, with more focus on prediction, more focus on communication, more focus on the things that go around the model in order to make the forecast useful. Can you comment on that a little bit, and especially any gaps that you see in Cairo that would need to be filled as you're transitioning to that new paradigm?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question, and I'm glad you picked up where I was leading you all with this opening, which is to say, yes, there has been remarkable scientific achievement over the last several decades. The model approach has been very effective, and we have more tools available to us than ever before. But you are right. We're interested now in trying to make sure that they're linked, that they are reaching the people in the right way, that there's services associated with them. And so, yes, that very much is a focus. It doesn't take away from the work that's already been done. That will continue. But we're seeing more and more just multifaceted problems that require multifaceted solutions. In terms of gaps, I don't know that there's gaps. I think we're just looking at the same problems in new ways. And it's just maybe a more multidisciplinary approach even than we've taken before. And then coupled with the fact that our users also have growing technology and changing needs and things like that. So I think that there's an opportunity for us to think about the same problems that have plagued us for a long time in new ways, in terms of who is using our information now and how are they using it differently than they were 10 years ago. You know, FIM is a great example of how we were leaning in a decade ago, and we've met that challenge. Now it's time to continue to deliver on that promise and then think about what's next. What does that look like? And I don't have a single answer, but I think that that's something that this community of practice can start to look at together. If you think about some of the science priorities that we identified for this year, you'll see a kind of a broad spectrum of things, and that's why.
Hi, Allie. This is Melissa Kenny from University of Minnesota. It's good to see you. So Cairo's prepping for a renewal. And if we were to think about what Cairo could achieve by the end of 10 years, what are some of the goals or visions you have for the aspirations of Cairo?
Yeah, it's hard to answer it because Cairo is, you know, as I said, Cairo really is meeting the needs right now. It has been such an important partnership and just a two-way. This is where we see the operational needs being, and Cairo saying, okay, here's how we meet it with the science challenges. And that's been such an effective partnership. And I think what successful 10 years would look like is an expansion of the current paradigm that we have right now. I think with some of the things that I noted. So increased collaboration, making sure that we are talking in new ways, talking earlier on. But yeah, it's hard to say that what we would change when there's no deficiencies. But you know, when I think about what I want to achieve in this role, it really is making some of those measurable, tangible differences that I described. And I think that we can do that together, whether it's reducing flood fatalities, whether it's you know, providing information to reservoir operators in new ways. So yeah, I think that's it. It's, yeah.
Question.
Is this working? Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, I just had a comment, not so much a question for Allie, but a comment following up on Martin's questions. I'm not sure I understood your question. We can get into this later, but given that I'm not sure if anyone from the RFCs is here, I think it's worth making this comment that, like,
I think the point all along was to turn good model predictions into useful guidance, considering what it is that we do in the Weather Service. And as someone who's participated in many of these Cairo science meetings, who likes to hop around to like model talks and like the IDSS talks, I have always seen that the focus has been quite broad and not just specifically say on modeling. So I was a little surprised to hear that kind of characterization of the paradigm shift, because at least from my perspective, we've been doing the same thing all along, right? Yeah, there was a focus on modeling, but there's always been a focus on the utility of predictions, of model predictions specifically. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment, because I feel like if someone from the RFCs were here, they would probably make a similar comment. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I don't want to give the impression that was lacking before. I think, thinking about the history of OWP, it was always intentionally built like this. They called it a stairway, right? But it was building blocks. And so we've always had the end state in mind. I guess my point was just, and maybe the point of the question too, was just, are we at the point now where less of the bandwidth is on the components themselves and more on what to do with them? I would say it's just a shift in balance. Maybe it's not to say that was lacking entirely.
Hi, Ellie. Marty Ralph here. Thanks for your presentation, even from afar. I wanted to follow up on a couple things you mentioned, in particular on FIRO. One of the key things that the hydrology community and Weather Service produces that's really vital is the HEFS forecast information. And I appreciate you making mention of both of those. One of the things that, of course, drives HEFS is the ensemble uncertainty and streamflow forecasts is ultimately uncertainty in the forcings of precipitation. And in the weather business, of course, we got a lot of uncertainty there, and we're trying to tamp that down. But I wanted to point out a particular need for something that flows into and feeds HEFS, and it's the GFS reforecast. This is a very wonky, nerdy thing, but that forecast, that output of GEFS is really vital, or GFS is really vital. And version 13 update was supposed to be done, and the RFCs are really looking for that, and it got delayed a year. So it's still a year away. And that feeds vitally into HEFS, which feeds into FIRO. So I just wanted to raise that fact and suggest that one of the bridges that's really important for, I think, Cairo and for the community here and leadership community to really pursue is to build that bridge to meteorology more. And a very pragmatic example of that would be to accelerate that reforecast effort, which is a prioritization problem in the weather business, right? What is the supercomputing being used for? And Fernanda, I couldn't help but think if your system was already up and running, I'd be making a push for you to take that on. But Ellie, I just wanted to point out that bridging, hydrology and meteorology is really important, and there's a very pragmatic example of something that got stuck, whereas maybe some advocacy at the leadership level could have helped, avoid that happening or maybe even fix it.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. And I would just note, conversations like this and the one that we had at the FARO meeting are so important also, because that's where some of that all came together. And we had WPC on the phone and OWP and RFCs and you all, and we realized that was an issue. And so I don't have an update on timelines, but what I can say is that did raise the concern within the Weather Service. And so the point is made, but I would also, jump on your point about how we can leverage the broader community and some of the opportunities that exist with what you heard from UA and from Cairo. So I think it's yes, and we need to do all of those things.
Andy?
Yeah, thank you for your talk. I'm Andy Wood from NCAR and also School of Mines. And I have a question, maybe two questions, kind of about the institutional infrastructure surrounding hydrological prediction. And the first question is whether, if you think about the fact that we have, or NOAA has some 9 test beds surrounding different aspects of weather prediction and other kinds of Earth system prediction, can we benefit from something similar for hydrology? There's always been a hydrometeorological prediction testbed, HPT, but it's been mostly focused on the atmosphere. In its time, it's a little bit of hydrology. Is there something NOAA can do to stand up a testbed? And the second question, sorry, is given that you're over at WMO, a lot of the other components of your system, like the atmosphere, the ocean, are thought of as global problems, and they're global communities that are stood up to interact on developing and advancing the models and the science. Should we be, as Cairo, more integrated with some global activities around land and hydrology prediction?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for the first question on test beds, I actually am going to ask Ed if he wants to chime in here, because I know that that's one that has a long history that he may want to answer as well.
Andy, it is a good question. It's not one that has not been asked before. I think it's taken the maturity of Cairo to get us to the point where we actually have a cohort that could facilitate a test bed. I think if we had tried to do this right off the bat, say back in 2021, 2022, I don't think we'd be as successful as we do this now. And I would love to see a white paper come in that begins to look or emulate a lot of what we see from the atmospheric or the ocean side of test beds. I think that would be a good capstone activity at the end of this first 5-year period to usher into a more broader or ubiquitous approach to leveraging test beds as we get to the second half of Cairo.
Thank you. And then on the second part of that, I would say, yes, it's important to engage with the global community, but I would also say that you already are. There is a lot of engagement on the WMO side with various government agencies that are the very ones that are helping to, discuss priorities with you all. So that's kind of happening. It maybe could be more visible where there are emerging global science questions, emerging global policy implications, where we can make sure that conversation is happening, back with Cairo. I think that's a fair point. But I would say that I don't see it as being a huge gap either, because it's kind of happening a little bit in the background right now.
All right. I think we have time for one more question. Scanning the audience. All right. Well, Allie, thank you for joining us from the other side of the globe, or close to it. Wish you luck with the rest of your meetings this week. We certainly will welcome you with open arms next year here in Tuscaloosa, and perhaps even in Salt Lake at the DevCon. Get one more round of applause for Allie.
Thank you.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to hear from Dr. Burian. Steve?